What a beautiful day to start our journey towards learning. Are you feeling the same way, students? Let us invest in knowledge because it pays the best interest. Thus, I am inviting you once again to come and join me as we march to acquire knowledge. Always remember, knowledge gives us the power to beat mediocrity. Students, welcome back to our Daily 8 video lesson for Quarter 1, Module 8. Today, you will be seeing another video that will help you and your family be safe. So, stay tuned. I am Teacher LIAN and I will be helping you acquire knowledge. But mind you, students, knowledge is of no value unless you put it into practice. So for learning not to be worthless, always apply it in your daily undertakings. Are you now ready for an adventure? Come and join me as we unfold the lesson in Daily 8, Domestic Refrigeration and Air Conditioning. Since there is still a threat of coronavirus, always observe and practice safety precautions upon handling your self-learning modules, activity sheets, pen, and other materials. Remember, being cautious is not bad. It's just one way to keep us safe. Learners, what can you say about people violating against the rule of law? What do you think will most likely to happen if you don't follow the law imposed by your government? Who do you choose to save? Your personal safety or others' safety? Today, we will be reading a poem that has something to do with making the right decision. Let us have some reflections as we read the poem. Are you ready?
I choose to look the other way, written by Domrac. I could have saved a life that day, but I chose to look the other way. It wasn't that I didn't care. I had the time and I was there. But I didn't want to seem a fool or argue over a safety rule. I knew he'd done the job before. If I spoke up, he might get sore. The chances didn't seem that bad. I'd done the same he knew I had. So I shook my head and walked on by. He knew the risk as well as I. He took the chance, I closed an eye, and with that act, I let him die. I could have saved a life that day, but I chose to look the other way. Now every time I see his wife, I'll know I should have saved his life. That guilt is something I must bear. But it isn't something you need share. If you see a risk that others take that puts their health or life at stake, the question asked or thing you say could help them live another day. If you see a risk and walked away, then hope you never had to say, I could have saved a life that day, but I choose to look the other way.
Let us analyze the point. What could have happened if the person did not choose to look the other way? What does the author want you to do when you see someone at risk? What are your thoughts about it? Wow, that's great! Knowing the different types of hazards and risks are beneficial in our daily activities. It will lessen the possibility of danger, injuries, and death in our workplace and in home. Before we go further, let us unlock the technical terms used in the lesson for easier understanding.
What do you mean by hazards? What do you mean by risks? Do they mean the same? Hazards are any sources of potential damage, harm, or adverse health effects on something or someone. Risk is a chance or probability that a person will be harmed or experience an adverse health effect if exposed to a hazard. Oftentimes, the word hazard and risk are used interchangeably. However, If you are responsible for managing the health and safety in your workplace, it's important that you understand the difference between them. Another word that needs to be unlocked is prevention. Prevention, the act of stopping something from happening.
Do you know that there are different types of hazards that every individual in the workplace ought to know? There are hazards that are more or less relevant to your workplaces. However, it tends to come into 6 main categories, and these are the following.
Critical hazards. Hazards due to the transfer of energy between an object and a worker. Examples are excessive noise, inadequate illumination, extreme temperature, extreme pressure, vibration, radiation, inadequate ventilation, cluttered area, ignorance or carelessness of the worker. The second type of hazard are chemical hazards. These hazards arise from inhaling chemical agents in the form of vapor gases, dust, fumes, mist, or by skin contact with these materials. Can you tell me something about these chemical agents? Mist, fine particles of a liquid float in air. Gases, substances in gaseous state but are always airborne at room temperature. Vapor, results when substances that are liquid at room temperature evaporate. Dust, solid harmful substances are ground, cut, or crashed by mechanical actions. Fumes, a gas condenses in air, chemically changed, and becomes fine solid particles which float in air.
What are the possible routes of entry of these chemical hazards? Do you mind naming them one by one? Bravo! You got it right! These hazards can penetrate through the following.
Inhalation, breathing of toxic and the most common and dangerous route. Ingestion, a process by swallowing or absorbing toxic chemicals passing through a gastrointestinal organ. Absorption, toxic chemicals pass through the skin, then into the bloodstream. Injection, toxic chemical may be injected into the body, the least common, yet most direct route of entry.
Now that you have already identified the point of entry of these chemical hazards, what do you think should be done in order to keep yourselves free from danger? Who do you think is the best person responsible for his safety? Each individual in the workplace is responsible for their own safety. The next type of hazard that can cause harm to people are biological hazards.
Biological hazards are hazards caused by living organisms, which includes insects, molds, fungi, viruses, and bacterial contamination. It is also from defects in sanitation and housekeeping procedures, such as the provision of potable water, removal of industrial waste and sewage, food handling, and personal cleanliness. These agents of biological hazards are detrimental to one's health. Thus, safety precautions are encouraged. The following are the agents of biological hazards. Bacteria, simple one-celled organisms that may or may not be harmful. Viruses, organisms that depend on a host cell for development or reproduction. Fungi, may be small or large parasitic organisms growing in a living or dead plant or animal. Rickettsia, rod-shaped microorganisms that are smaller than bacteria and depend on a host for development or reproduction. Microorganisms transmitted by fleas, ticks, and lice.
The next type of hazard that presents threat to health are ergonomic hazards.
Ergonomic hazards are hazards commonly seen in the workplace, which are improperly designed tools or work areas, improper lifting or reaching, poor visual conditions or repeated motions in an awkward position that may be responsible for fatigue, stress, and strain, and may lead to accidents in the occupational environment. Some of the effects of ergonomic hazards are low productivity, high rate of errors, material wastage in equipment.
Another type of hazard in the workplace are electrical hazards.
Electrical hazards. Electrocution is one of the most common hazards across construction sites according to Occupational Safety and Health Administration.
Electrical hazards come in a variety of forms, but all have the potential to cause serious injury or even death.
The common types of electrical hazards are the following: contact with live wires resulting to electric shock, fires due to faulty wiring, exposed electrical parts, inadequate wiring, improper grounding, damaged wire insulation, overloaded circuits, and wet condition. The last type of hazard are mechanical hazards. Mechanical hazards are caused by sharp edges, moving machine parts, and tools. When lifting and moving heavy equipment, workers are exposed to the hazard of falling on slippery surfaces and to injury from overexertion.
There you go, students. Those are the different types of hazards. Now that you have identified all of them, I believe we will be more extra careful this time so that undesirable events will be evaded. What again are the different types of hazards? Well done! They are the physical hazard, chemical hazard, biological hazard, ergonomic hazard, and electrical hazard. What do you think are the possible working conditions that may produce hazards? Wow, you are really paying attention. They are the falling debris, sharp objects, objects that can roll over workers' feet, toxic chemical, heat, harmful dust, and radiation.
Injuries occur during common trade activities such as lifting and carrying materials or equipment, installing or replacing equipment, climbing on ladders and steps, crossing work surfaces such as floors and rooftops, and working with metal or piping.
Staying healthy through regular exercise and proper diet can help prevent or minimize injuries from overexertion and contribute to the well-being both on and off the job. By adhering to the legal responsibilities and recommended practices, may reduce or eliminate many of these injuries and improve the health and safety of all those who work in the refrigeration and air conditioning industry.
So, what are the necessary precautions you need to take to keep yourself protected?
Of course, you need to have presence of mind at work, clear up your minds with your anxieties so that you can think clearly if confronted with unpredictable circumstances. In addition to that, one must have a proper training in the refrigeration and air conditioning industry to keep yourself away from danger. I believe you have learned so much from our discussion. It is time for me to check how far you have learned from today's lesson. Wow! I am very much delighted with your performance. Hope to see you again in our next video lesson with the same level of energy and enthusiasm. That's all for now. Let us all be safe and healthy. Mabuhay tayong lahat!